Hey everyone, welcome to Coffee with Changemakers. I'm Robin.
And I'm Yoshi. On the Coffee with Changemakers podcast, we explore the stories of changemakers taking on some of today's biggest social and environmental challenges.
Every episode, we host an intimate conversation on social impact and leadership, where we listen, learn, and connect over a cup of coffee with inspiring guests from all over the world.
So before we jump into today's episode, we have a quick ask. If you enjoy our conversations, it would mean the world to us if you subscribe, rate, and perhaps even tell a friend about the show. Your support helps us bring even more inspiring guests onto future episodes.
So, here's today's coffee chat. Enjoy. When was the last time you really thought about soil? It's under our feet every day, yet according to the United Nations, over a third of the world's land is already degraded, putting biodiversity, clean water, and millions of lives and livelihoods at risk. Our guest today, Louis de Jaeger, is on a mission to change that. An award-winning entrepreneur, filmmaker, author, and advocate, Louis is the founder of Commensalist, a landscape architecture firm specializing in regenerating land in beautiful ways, from simple gardens to entire islands. He also co-founded the Food Forest Institute, a non-profit organization dedicated to developing large-scale food forests, and through films and books inspires people to grow food in harmony with nature. His latest book, SOS, Save Our Soils, I love the name by the way, takes readers around the world speaking with farmers, scientists, and activists to explore a pressing question: how can we feed ourselves in ways that restore the planet? Fun fact, Louis also co-founded a private night train company in Belgium to promote greener travel, and his newest venture, My Garden, is an AI-powered garden designer, making regenerative landscape design affordable and accessible to everyone. Louis is on a mission to regenerate 550 million hectares of land using wild edible plants to connect people with nature so they will fall in love with it and take action. Louis and I first met in Europe at a conference for young leaders many years ago, and since then I've been following his updates from book launches to film releases and business launches. It's been really, really amazing to see all the things that you're doing and the impact that you're making. Louis, how are you doing this morning?
Well, I'm doing very well. I just watered my garden this morning and picked some raspberries, so it can't be better. I'm very glad to be here. Arigato.
Yes.
Thanks for the crazy intro. And so happy to see you again, Robin and Josh.
Very good to see you again as well. And is this a morning ritual? You go into the garden, you pick fruits and vegetables. Is that right?
I try actually to do that. Yeah, I have a super hectic life where I travel a lot, domestically, but also internationally. And so I don't always have the time to do so, but like I always try to chip in at least 5 minutes to there's nothing more rich or crazy in life you can do than just like take a raspberry and eat it in the morning. You can't buy any raspberries that are better than those. Even if you're a billionaire and spend billions on raspberries, you'll never get a raspberry as good as the one that's in your garden. So it's true well.
100%. I actually just began a small vegetable garden, and it's one of the most fun things to go there, to smell the soil, to pick the tomatoes and things. And so I'm very much a beginner, but I'm really excited for this conversation, all the things that you're doing. So for our audience, to kick things off, could you share a little about your early years and how you got down this path that you're on? It's such an interesting, unique path. I'd love to hear.
Yeah, well, I think I've been a contrarian for all my life already. I remember like teachers saying to me when I was, I think, 8 years old, yeah, Louis, try to do like all the rest. Don't do so strange stuff. Or like, I've always like thought a bit differently, I think. And sometimes from some people, it has been appreciated a lot. Some teachers really loved it. Some teachers were like hating me for it. And yeah, I had to go to school until I was 18 years old. And at the time, I didn't appreciate the privilege. I was like I have to go to school. Like I didn't choose for this, you know. I've really felt trapped and imprisoned, and I really wanted to be free. It was like my biggest my biggest goal in life, to be free. Like when I was 15, 16 years old, I tried to leave school, and then my mom was like, "Okay, Louis, you can leave school, but then you have to do something constructive." And I was like, "Okay, but what the hell am I gonna do?" So I started a vegetable garden, but after a couple of days, I was like, okay, but what do I do now? Because I have to wait until the seeds start to germinate. And I was like, okay, I might as well go to school. So I went back to school and then finished it. But then when I was 18 years old, I had like this free pass to do anything I want. So I was super happy. And my only goal was actually to find freedom. And I think, of course, we all know the cliche that freedom is something in your mind or soul and not something you will find in the world. But still, I really went out to travel the world. I traveled all the United States, all Central America, Canada, but also parts of Africa and Russia even. And there, I was only 18 years old. I discovered permaculture. And for me, that opened a lot of doors. Permaculture means permanent agriculture or permanent culture. And when I was guest at the permaculture place, for me, everything came together. I saw people like living in harmony with the land. They were growing their own food. They had made their own buildings or had somebody build them like in a very circular way. So there is no waste. It's passive. So you don't like need a lot of heating. For me, it was so logical. Like everything came together, and I was like, okay, as a naive 18-year-old, I want to like make my entire life around it. And I also had the naive idea, well, why do people go to work to buy food, to be able to buy food? But if you grow your own food, you don't have to earn money to buy food because you already have food. And so that was like the idea behind it. And of course, yeah, as an 18-year-old, you're sometimes think black and white and a bit naive, and then little by little it matured. I did a lot of self-study, lived in different places of the world, was property manager in a castle, in ski resort, some interesting places to really get to know the land, different climates, also Mediterranean as well. But then I was in the desert of Morocco, and I'm a forager, so I know how to survive in the wild. I won't like it. I rather go to a restaurant, but I could survive in the wild. But in the desert, I really felt unease. I was like, okay, but if I'm dropped here, I will drop dead because there's nothing to eat. And how is this desert created? By humans, because we really did our best to destroy the land with intensive agriculture for thousands of years. So not only the modern day, but like even in the time of the Romans, we started to ruin that landscape. It used to be a food forest. And for me at that point, I was like, oh my God, this was the Garden of Eden and we ruined it. And then when I went and recalled memories from other places I visited, I like realized that we're doing it all across the world. And you said in the intro, 1/3 of the land is already degraded. It's predicted that in 2050, 90% will be degraded. So in 25 years, 90% will be degraded. And for me, that was like, okay, now I'm going to do everything I can to regenerate as many hectares of land as possible. And I just became an invasive weed and spread as many seeds as possible. Not only spreading seeds, but also doing the work.
I love this metaphor of you being an invasive weed, spreading your message across the world. But for those who aren't familiar with this issue, you mentioned that 90% of the land will be degraded if things continue as is in the near future. Why should we care? What is the issue with the soil, with the land? What is it that we need to care about?
Yeah, it's funny that most people don't realize what soil is and why it's important. And in the English language, it's often called dirt. But most people don't realize that we only exist because of soil. Soil did not exist when the planet was formed. It was formed for millions of years that little microorganisms like grinded up the rocks, and then plants died, and these dead plant materials or animal materials like mixed with these dead rocks, and little by little, like millimeter by millimeter, inch by inch, the soil formed. And it's soil that makes it possible for plants to grow, and it's soil that makes it possible that animals can eat those plants. So whether you eat meat or eat vegetables or grains, it's not possible without soil. Even the sea, the health of the sea depends on the health of the soil. It's connected with each other. And once you realize that without good soil, we don't have food and we still need food, then you realize that any dream you have in life, any ambition you have, take away the food and your ambition will fall into the water. Even if you want to build a spaceship and go to Mars, without soil, you won't be able to do it.
So it's really fundamental to everything, and it's cultural, it's economic, it's everything, right? In terms of we cannot have a healthy society without having healthy soil. And what I'd love to do is to ask you, how did you start your journey as a change maker? You had this very intense transformation, traveling the world, seeing all these things, the decline of nature and so on, and learning. I also studied permaculture in India, and it was one of the most amazing experiences that I ever had.
Yeah,
but
you told
where
me,
did you
yeah.
go from there? How did you make your path?
Yeah, step by step. Rome is not built in one day. It takes a long time to do. I think one of the most important things is to really have this drive inside of you. I really have this incredible amount of energy. I would not call it aggression, but it's people maybe can perceive it as aggression, because if I talk about it sometimes and I try to explain the point, I'm like, you have to do this and that and that, and like, because I just feel the urgency of it. You know, in 25 years, I'll be in my 50s, something like that. That's still super young, you know? I still want to have a fantastic life. Our kids and grandkids, I also want them to have fantastic lives. But 25 years, that's not too far ahead. And I love people. I love humanity. We do amazing stuff. We create amazing culture, beautiful friendships, love. And that's something to cherish. And for me, that's a really big drive that I want to I really take this responsibility as a steward of the land and of the world to try to safeguard humanity, and we can all do this together. So I think that's the first step. And then I remember when I really first got started. So I traveled and lived abroad for about 5 years, and then I was like, okay, I can stay this nomad and just go from place to place, or I can really put my roots into the ground and start building stuff. And I chose that. I also chose to study, to get a scientific degree, because I read all the books, but still you are lazy in some ways that you, for example, difficult scientific stuff, like I always skip that. But then going into this scientific bachelor's degree, I did agro and biotechnology, green management. I really integrated all this in a very structured way, what I really loved. And then I think after only half year of studying, I was like, okay, I'm going to start my first enterprise and just do garden consulting. So I remember going with this little trolley full of books to clients and for almost zero money, advising them. And then little by little it grew. A big change also came that first when I started, I thought that politicians were the only ones that could create change. And the city, I grew up in Bruges, Venice of the North, a very beautiful city. It had a mayor, and you could talk to the mayor. There was one day in a week you could go and talk with the mayor, and they make an appointment. So I went to the mayor and I said, look, I have this idea, this idea, this idea, this idea. You could do this with Bruges, this. And he said, yeah, Louis, fantastic ideas, but I'm going to tell you a secret. We politicians, we actually don't do stuff. We just look at what other peoples are doing. And if we see something that gets traction, we're going to support that. And for me, that was an entire mind shift, because I always thought, oh my God, I need to become a politician to make change. But he burst that bubble and he said, no, you are the one that needs to make a change. I'm not going to do it. So then, and that was my free cards, my card to go ahead and I start to build campaigns and do a lot of stuff.
How interesting. I read somewhere, Louis, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that you wrote a letter to the King of Belgium. Is that right? And you encouraged the royal family to change their gardens and stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about that, if that's true?
Yeah, it's true. So we have this problem worldwide where people have too many lawns. It actually all started in the Victorian era, where land was scarce and super expensive, and every inch of land was used to grow food. And the rich people back then, they could not buy a Rolls Royce or a Bentley or Lamborghini. it didn't exist back then, what they could do to show how wealthy they were like, okay, I'm gonna just grow a lawn and have like 10 people like have scissors and cut that lawn. So it was like that was the Bentley or the Rolls Royce of that time. So all the other people were of course jealous and they say, oh, I also want the lawn. And so now today we all have a lawn. We kind of forgot why. Of course, a lawn is super cool to like play games or picnic, or every garden could have like a bit of lawn, but not like every inch of your garden should not be a lawn. That's like a big mistake that most of the people are making. And so we launched a campaign called Bye Bye Grass, and I wrote a letter to the king and said, yeah, look, you have so many lawns in your royal palace. Let's make a flowering meadow out of it or something else. And it was funny because it really like exploded, that campaign. And I was even in royalty magazines. It was so funny. I got so many traction. Even there were like film crews coming here to film me for TV. And it was really the launch of a super cool campaign that then inspired other campaigns to start in Belgium. And it was a really, really good time. And the funny part of that, so the king, they have like people like replying to these letters. So I got a very generic reply. Oh, thank you for being so good for the planet. Just something like that. But so many years later, the king and the queen decided to open up their gates for children of Brussels. It was like during the COVID pandemic. And because there's not enough green in Brussels, and we're like, okay, I'm going to share my wealthy garden with everybody. And I kind of got invited as a guide to guide those children. So from time to time, I'm like volunteering now as a guide at the Royal Palace and guiding kids around. And what do I see? That they have actually less lawns and more flowering meadows. I'm not sure if it's my doing, but it's kind of happened. So however it went.
That's so cool. And that speaks to the power of elevating your voice when you care about something, right? You never know. It can become a viral campaign. It can lead the media to your front door.
Yeah.
That's a really cool story.
I was such a naive young boy, you know? And I just like, I'm going to write a letter to the king, and I'm
but the naivete is a forte, right? When you're young, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so amazing things can happen when you take action.
It's so true. And now today, when I meet people who are like at the same naivete niveau I had, I'm really jealous, because then I went and really learned so much about anything that my head became so nuanced that I'm like these bold things. I'm still doing bold things sometimes, but I always have the feeling that it's like less bold because I'm like too careful, because oh yeah, but the other side is, and yeah, I understand why they're still using pesticides, and yeah, I don't want to like hurt their feelings. But back then I was like, oh, screw it.
I love that. When I was younger, I direct messaged, I DM'd Leo DiCaprio about something. And I never got a response, but probably now I wouldn't even think about that, you know?
Yeah, but, you should do it.
Yeah. So to all of you younger people, or even not even younger people, anyone can take that naivete and do something that's crazy. And you never know where it goes. So I love that story.
Also remember that in a lot of democracies, you can like also write an official letter to the parliament or something like that. In every country it's different, but in Belgium you could like write a letter, and they have to read it, and they have to also consider to talk about it. And for example, with this Bye Bye Grass thing, they got it into the Flemish Parliament. I was there as well, and then I was able to like stand in front of the Parliament and like stumble on my words, and like so nervous that I like tried to like tell my story. And yeah, it's cool, you know. That's so like, yeah, as a naive young guy or girl or X, you can just stand in front of politicians and tell your story. It's possible. You should just try it.
That's awesome. I want to get into Commensalist. I know you have many different hats, Louis, and I want to focus maybe on Commensalist for now. But before that, I want to pick up on something you said about lawns. So I know there's a big movement to get more food forests, different biodiversity, instead of having these lawns in our gardens. Can you tell us a bit more about what are food forests? What can we replace our lawns with, and that kind of thing for our listeners?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. So if you look at nature, and you just let everything grow, you do nothing, everything becomes a forest. Not in all places of the world, but in Japan, for example, it will. In where I live, in a lot of places where there's enough moisture, it will become a forest. Beautiful example is Chernobyl. I don't know if anybody of you watched the Chernobyl documentary or docuseries. It became a forest. It used to be a city. The streets, they were like paved, and now it's a forest. So everything becomes a forest. And it was actually an insight I had. I was working in a farm as an intern, and there I was harvesting leek. And leek is an annual plant. It only grows for 1 year. So if you harvest it, it doesn't come back. So I was there. It was -2 degrees Celsius. I was really freezing, and I was like, it was such a hard life. I was like, oh my god, if I want to become a farmer, would this be my life, like harvesting leek, and I have to put it there year after year, and my back will hurt. I'm like freezing to death. And at the same time, I was reading a book about a chestnut tree on the Mount Etna in Italy, on a volcano that's 4,000 years old, or that's at least the estimate, 4,000 years. And I was like, oh my god! So I can sit for the next 4,000 years under a chestnut tree, and every year the chestnut will just fall on my lap, or I can go and do back-breaking work and like put annuals into the soil, and that's like the big interesting thing, that if you look at our diets, most of our food are annuals, plants that only live 1 year. If you have a vegetable garden, you know what I'm talking about, because everything is harvested, everything is gone. Next year you have to start again. What we do for our clients is we create food forests that are plants that we kind of mimic the forest, because everything will become a forest anyway. And a forest doesn't need watering. It doesn't need pesticides. It doesn't need fertilizer. It doesn't need too much maintenance, or no maintenance at all, depending on how clean you want it to be. So we mimic this natural system, with the big difference with a normal forest is that you pick varieties that give giant fruits. Apples, pears, plums, strawberries, all kind of berries. And the nice thing is, if you leave it alone for a year, like I travel a lot, and if I go away for a couple of months and I go back, everything is still there. Of course, it has become a small wilderness, but I can like go and maintain it a little bit. But it's relatively low maintenance, and it gives you like free food for life and the best food for life. And it's something very democratical about that. Like we have billionaire clients, but we also have average Jane and Joes as clients. But it's the same raspberry that we're putting in their garden, you know? It's not like this is like a $1 million raspberry and this is like a $5 raspberry. No, like a raspberry is a raspberry. And like whether you're like billionaire or even like penniless, you can put this plant in your garden and every morning pick a berry, and there's no better berry you can buy in the world. So it's so democratic and it's so accessible, and you can get the best in the world on your doorstep, and that's so powerful.
And what's really interesting from what I've seen is that there are food forests growing, as you say, in billionaires' gardens, but also in global south countries, in places which don't have much monetary resources, you can still make food forests, right? So can you tell us a bit about, can anyone make a food forest in their garden? Or how does that work?
Yeah, it's actually embarrassingly simple. You go to a normal forest and you check what kind of plants grow there. You like try to look at and inventorize it. A lot of these plants, one, are already edible, but we don't know it. And if they're not edible or not really edible, they have brothers or sisters, plants of kind of the same species, kind of the same family, that do have edible varieties. And if you know, well, if this plant grows here, that plant will grow here as well. A good thing is talk to your neighbors, to the older people living in your neighborhood, and just ask around, what kind of fruit and nut trees can you grow here? And then you just go to a garden center and buy these plants and put them in your garden. Or you also have these organizations that do like seed swapping, or for example, a lot of berries, you can just put the stick in the ground. You can just put the branch in the ground and it will start to grow. And so you can do this, of course, with money, buy all the plants, but you can also literally do it for free. And I used to go to the garden center and just ask, what plants are you throwing away? And they're like, go to the container. And then I like filled my car up with my car was like full of plants that would end in the container because they were like almost dying or ugly. And so I created this plant sanctuary, and this way, I like a big part of my garden was actually started for free, and that's so nice because the garden center is happy; they don't have to throw it away. Containers cost money, and you're happy because you're having free plants, and the plants are probably happy as well that they don't have to go to a landfill, which is a bit stupid. So yeah.
And I want to explore one thing you said, because you said that it can be free. It can be very low cost, right? We have this view of organic food or extremely healthy food in some cases as very premium priced products, right? Like the Whole Foods, what do they call it? Whole paycheck kind of thing, right? This whole like it can be very expensive, but
Yeah,
if you
I
grow
heard
your
more
own
terrible names too. I'm gonna say on the podcast.
Right. Okay. Yeah. There's probably lots of examples, but it can be done for very cheap or free in your own garden, and that is quite a big mindset shift that can happen.
Yeah.
I want to go into Commensalist because you fly around the world helping to design all kinds of gardens, outdoor environments. The last I heard, you're doing a private island in Argentina or something. Is that right? As well as, smaller gardens, all kinds of things. But can you tell us a bit more about how that works? Where do you go? What do you do? How does that look like?
Yeah, so basically we're trying to restore the Garden of Eden on this planet. That's like a nice way to put it. A lot of land is degraded. A lot of people buy a house or a property, and they have a house, and the rest is lawn or dead or like wilderness or nothing really attractive for the people. What we do is we go and observe. We put a lot of time in observation and studying the land and looking what plants are already there, looking at the soil, how good it is or how bad it is. And then we come up with a plan to restore it. And for example, we do small gardens, but we also do entire private islands, branches, but also a lot of hospitality like hotels or retreat centers. And one of the most important things actually we do is every owner of a land has its personality, the personality of the family, and we need to get to know that personality. We need to get to know how they live, what their passion is, what they like, what they don't like. And from that personality, we actually build this garden around them. And even if it's a company, like some people ask me, yeah, Louis, do you also have companies for as a client? And I say, no, I only have people as clients, because a company does not exist, it's always a person within that company that has this passion or this vision. And of course it may be within company values, and the company might be an extension of that person. So there is like a crossover, but it's always like personal thing, or multiple personal things, and then we really go and dig into this person's dreams and do very cool exercises with them, to just find out what they really want, and then we start designing. We're like an architecture firm that would design houses, but we design properties, gardens. We also help to design the houses, for example, like say where the houses need to be put, for example. And then we integrate all different cool ingredients. For example, the island, that's like a little boy's dream, It's like playing Island Tycoon or Roller Coaster Tycoon, like it's super cool to do. So it's like, okay, there's a landing strip. Okay, we need to restore that landing strip. We have boats that will go into the island, but there is no place to dock. What's the best place to dock with that boat on that island? It's like, okay, then we have to like hire a boat that will with sonar like check how deep the water is around and what's like the best place to moor with the boat, because level can rise or can go down. What happens if it rises? Will it still be the best spot? And you have to check the winds, where is the best place to moor with the boat. Roads, we have to have like roads that have the least amount of impact on the land. So where are we going to put those? The views we're going to decide. And then what kind of ingredients are you going to put there? You want to regenerate the land. You can use all different techniques. We're going to do some rewilding, where we're just going to have nature its course. We have a place where cows will regenerate the land. We all heard that, yeah, cows are destroying the planet. Well, it's actually humans that are destroying the land. They're just using cows the wrong way. But cows can also be used to regenerate the land with holistic grazing. So we are going to use cows to rotate in a very good way. We're going to have a food forest. We're going to have a vineyard to have local wines. We're going to have nut trees to make nut oil. And little by little, you're creating this piece of paradise. What I really love about edible food is it's a way to really connect people with the land. If you walk by and you don't know a lot of plants, you just think, oh, it's green. It's nothing more than green. But when people get to know the edible plant, it's like, oh, that's that plant with the edible berry. Oh, that's that plant with edible leaves. Oh, that's that plant. And they see the value much more than they would otherwise.
Wow. I've just been like soaking in all this information because this has just been so incredible for me. And yeah, Louis, I guess from my perspective, I kind of wanted to learn a little bit more about your business model. Would you be able to kind of elaborate more on how you are able to maintain this sustainable organization from a financial perspective?
Yeah, of course. I think it's very classical, actually. We are following the business model of an architecture firm, where we estimate how much work we're gonna put into the designing of the work. Then the client signs the agreement of the amount, and then we go and design it, and we have to make sure that we have overheads, some buffer, and that's it, actually. So and with that, I'm privileged to be able to pay a team and provide them with a very nice income. They earn more, our team members, than most architecture firms in our country. So very glad for that. That's actually a very simple part of it. Sometimes we have monthly subscriptions, for example, that people pay us 2 days a week, for example, that we following up the works, because coordination sometimes takes a lot of energy, especially if it's multiple nationalities working together with the language barrier, but also sometimes cultural barriers that we would do things different than other cultures. It's also very important to be culturally sensitive. We don't want to go in there as the white guys and girls to say, okay, this is the European style, do this or get out. No, we're always okay, you are local, you know your area best. Let's learn from each other. And it's super cool where we then come together with those local people and we really learn from each other. So we learn a lot from them, but they also start to implement ways we are doing stuff. So it's a very nice exchange, actually. And if you do it in a very respectful way, then that's fantastic. But it takes time to do so.
And I guess focusing on, for example, yoga retreats and accommodate hotels and things, having an edible food forest must be such a great experience for the guests, right? They go, they stay there, they get to pick the food, they pick some berries or whatever it is. It must be a really memorable experience. So I think there must be a lot of demand for that kind of service, but that sounds really amazing. And are you seeing that a lot? Are you seeing a lot of hotels and things in your...
Yeah, and that's actually very interesting, because I've been to luxury hotels, and they all want to differentiate themselves from each other, and most of the time is just being more fancy in a materialistic way, but sometimes, or a lot of the times, materialistic luxury can feel empty. I also love to go to a luxurious place, I don't mind, but I also love to go camping in the wild, just with a tent. You open the tent, you're in nature, you can just swim in a river. For me, that's also pure luxury and pure wealth. And that's the thing that a lot of hotels, but also other businesses, are realizing, that people are not looking for a golden toilet to do your business on. Okay, some people might like that, but but people are really looking for authenticity. And what is authentic? I sometimes take people to go on these wild picking tours that I just show them what's edible and stuff. I don't do that a lot because of time issues, but I've done it with top CEOs, and they've put this in their mouths, and they're like, oh my God, like a new world goes open for them. But that's the same when with at these hotels. If you have this edible garden and people are just like, they can go there and just know that everything they put in their mouth is edible, or they're like little signs on it. It's crazy. People, they get like mad because they're like, oh my God, like I've seen like mulberry plants all over, but I did not know that the leaves are actually edible and one of the most nutritious vegetables in the world. And you can eat those leaves no matter how old the leaf is. So, and that's only one example. And there are so many examples. And we want memories. That's the only wealth you can have, and people cannot take away from you, your memories. And that's the really only thing that's going to be yours for the rest of your lives. And that's what people are after.
Right, it's the experience, and it's the experience that you only have at that location, right? Anyone can install a golden toilet, but that's standardized across the world. But you cannot have the mulberries from this specific garden with this specific taste and the flavor profile, unless you're in that place, right? So I fully agree with you. And one of my favorite memories of staying on a farm here in the UK was. It was actually a rewilded estate. It was a beautiful place, but it was just picking blackberries in the morning and again, just foraging. And it was just one of the most, it's such a simple thing to do, but it's so much fun. And we were munching them the whole day, and it was just a beautiful experience. So that's really amazing to hear that lots of hotels and places are seeing that and making it happen too. Given that you travel around the world and you have all these amazing projects, can you share a few of the challenges that you face? Because there must be a whole load of challenges in the kind of work that you do.
Yeah.
Would you like to share maybe one or two key challenges?
There are tons of challenges, and the most important part is to face them up front and just acknowledge that those challenges are there, exist. And I think our job, the two biggest challenges are, one, like in any job, communication. That's so cliche, but communication, and that's communication within the team. That's so important. But it's communication between our team and the client, communication between our team and other teams that are working there, whether it's engineers building roads or putting in pipes or whatever. That if communication is bad, you may have the best project you can imagine, but everything will collapse if your communication is bad. So that's something that you really have to actively work on. And me personally, I'm like not the best communicator in the world because I sometimes forget things, for example. And so, yeah, that's for me personally a big challenge, because sometimes I presume that people can read my mind, and I thought, okay, oh, but you didn't brought that. Yeah, but okay, I didn't ask you, but I like kind of thought you maybe would bring that. so these stupid things, and that's super humane. But so, yeah, that's a challenge. And then another challenge, of course, is the warming of the climate, and just the weather extremes, and also just you're working with living material. So we may make the best design in the world with fantastic observation and a very logical way why we chose that plant for that place. But if, for example, there are animals that like go inside and we didn't protect it well and they eat it all, then yeah, by design we have to replant those plants, or plants that just die because for some reason. Yeah, some plants just die and you don't know why they die. And one of the most important things is, like I said, say the problem or the challenges up front. So like if you go to a client, we're like, okay, you're gonna pay X amount for these plants. Know that so many percent could die. It's part of the game. If you can't deal that, then go and build brick houses, so those I think are the biggest challenges, but you can overcome those challenges, and if you talk about it and keep on communicating and keep on in the process, never see it as a static thing. Never see, okay, we're just gonna come in, build the house and leave. No, that's not how our job works. It's like go in and like keep on tinkering and observing, and sometimes if it's like huge projects, we like first do little test trials, even that can run over several years before we go and plant everything. And then every year we go back, or every month or every 3 months, depending on how intensive it is. And then we see, okay, this works. Okay, now we just planted 3 hectares or 6 acres, let's say, and now we can do 600. And so that's step by step. So yeah.
Well, first of all, I would disagree with your comment that you're not a good communicator, because I know that you're an international keynote speaker on these kinds of topics. Secondly, I imagine that it must be really exciting to see your projects come to life and then go back and visit in several years and see how the landscape is changing. It must be an incredible experience. But I imagine that you've had so many of these kinds of rewarding moments doing what you do, from being an author, a filmmaker, an entrepreneur. But can you give us maybe one or two of the key highlights for you? One of the moments where you've been like, oh, this is all worth it.
Oh yeah. I think one of the most touching moments is, for example, I was with a very good friend at a farmer's market, and for her birthday, and I bought some things for her. And the guy who was at the checkout register was like, "Oh, but are you Louis the Jaeger?" I was yeah. And he's like, "Oh my God, I read your book, and it's because of that book that I am here today. I changed my corporate job, and now I'm like volunteering here at this farmer's market, and I work at the farm now." And for me, it's of course super cool to say, "Oh, cool, I have a private island that I designed," or "Oh, cool, this hotel I helped design." And of course, that's for your ego, super nice, and also just for your inner happiness. But really, this one-on-one conversation, and like one person said, "Oh my God, you really changed my life," and I really had the privilege to have this a couple of times. Like it happens regularly, getting these stories, and for me, every time that happens, I'm like, whew, all right, I'm like doing something that's worthy, I'm impacting people's lives, because for me, that's what it's all about, like impacting people's lives and making sure that they have like a more fulfilled life and are part of the solution. And if I like played a little role in that, I'm like, yeah, that's nothing. It cannot make me more happy, actually.
And you mentioned that you travel frequently and you have a hectic schedule. How do you keep moving forward when you're really tired? You've hit, times of hardship, which I imagine that we all do. But what's your inner motivation to keep going?
I think that if I don't keep going, or if we don't keep going, like in 25 years, we'll all die. Or slowly die. So that's like a big motivation. That's one thing. That's of course like fear-based. But on the other hand, it's also, I think, more is love-based. I once heard somebody say, well, make sure that every decision you make in life is a decision out of love. I was like, I once met this very good spiritual leader, and she said, I just asked her, okay, but like all the wisdom you have, say what's like one sentence, if you have to say me one sentence. And she said, okay, or you choose out of fear or you choose out of love. For me, it was really like, wow, okay, if I just do this, then it's so cool. And that's of course the love part. I love humanity. I love good food. I love to go to the cinema. I love to see landscapes. And so just this passion of wanting to spread this love, spread this this feeling of possibility. People sometimes don't know what's possible, and I really just like the look on people's faces. Oh my God, it's possible to do that. You just have to put that plant in the ground, and you have like nuts for the rest of your life and your grandchild's child's life. And that just gives me energy. But it's true. Sometimes, like, I really am like dead. I have to go on I went on a 2-week camping trip where we literally did nothing. Just like I just read and swam in the river, and sometimes did some hiking and maybe visited a city or a town where we were. And that's, you need those recharge moments. And like, there was a time that I didn't know the word self-care. I literally did not know what that word was. It was not in my vocabulary. But then I realized that you really have to try to integrate it in your life. So little by little, I try to integrate it, and it's good, because you can't like change the planet and save the planet if you don't like save your body.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think what you just said also speaks to the deep connection between planetary health, soil health, and human health and happiness, right? Like we need to have the fundamentals, the soil, the water, the air to be clean, to be healthy, for us to be healthy. And so it's all deeply, deeply connected. I would love to listen to some of your learnings, right? I mean, you've been on this wild journey around the world. You have started many ventures, and I know you've also just launched an AI powered startup that is an AI enabled garden designer, if I'm not mistaken, as well as launching a train company, which I found fascinating. I would love to ask you about those, as well as you to share a few of the key learnings. How have you changed?
I think that one of the quotes that inspired me a lot is, what if you could do anything you like and you know that you would not fail? And that was like, okay, I had like just that idea of like, yeah, we have to have more night trains. Yeah, let's just start a night train company. No, it's like a super naive idea. Like there's like not enough of this or not enough of that, or like people can't afford landscape architects. We have a landscape architecture firm. It costs a lot of money. My mother would like never pay for that, you know. But if you have an AI enabled landscape architect, or like the combination between AI and humans, what we have right now, then you can like lower the price drastically and make it much more affordable. So it's just always like, okay, like there's a problem. What is the solution? And even if it's like a crazy solution, it's always possible to do it, how crazy it may seem. And of course, like I cannot start a night train company on my own. I cannot start an AI startup on my own. I cannot run Commensalist on my own. And one of the most important parts is to partner up with people who are crazy enough to think your idea is a cool idea. And they're like, oh, cool, Louis. Very nice idea of a night train company. How serious are you? Because I've been CEO of like an airline company before. I'm happy to like join. I'm like, all right, let's do it. And then yeah, we came together, and other people came together, and a lot of things happened. I'm not going to go into the details, but yeah, the train is now driving between Brussels and Prague and Berlin, and also goes now to the south and is like expanding every year. And it's just because, yeah, you bring together passionate enough. And a very important part of my learning personally, like I'm very good at like starting fires, but I'm not a person who then like every 4 hours go to the shed, take some wood and put it on the fire. I'm not like this consequent person. And first I felt really terrible that I'm like not good at that. And I've really felt flawed, and also felt a bit like a fraud because of that, like this imposter syndrome. And I did a lot of like this inner work, and I did some inner leadership trainings, and then you go into these talking groups, and they were saying, yeah, but Louis, that's like an amazing skill. Not a lot of people can start a fire, you know, that's like incredible. And I was like, yeah, really? I said, yeah. And I said, but like I start so many, I want to start like so many fires. I say, but Louis, don't worry about it. Just find people who love to then maintain the fire. Those people are around, you know, and it's true. And once I embraced like the true self, and there was like one day that I talked to the team and I literally said, look, I tried to be a good manager, but I suck as a manager. I'm not a good manager. I'm probably the worst manager in the world. So I'm not going to do it anymore. Like I tried to do it. I probably frustrated you. I frustrated myself. And then I created this space. And at the beginning, people were like, oh, what the heck? You're like, but it was like really good. And it felt so liberating because for me personally, and I think a lot of people have that, you try to be so good at everything. And like you have the feeling that you're obliged because like, yeah, for some reason I became business or owner of several businesses and the leader of these businesses. And so I thought, yeah, as a leader, you have to be a good manager. I was like, okay, if I'm not a good manager, I'm like, I suck. But then once you then accept that this is where I'm good at, this is how I'm better, and communicate that, I feel so much lighter, feel so much better. And then you create a space for other people to do that work. And then now I'm like not afraid anymore. For example, if I'm with a colleague and we go to design and she's like, for example, talking about the details, that I say, hey, I'm sorry, but that's not, my mind doesn't work that way. You do the details. I do like the overarching view, and so that becomes like an understanding, and she likes it too, because if she would like only focus on the details, then that's also an extreme. So you have to have that balance. So yeah, it's cliche, I know, you have to embrace who you are, and it's not easy.
Wow, but Louis, I think that's some incredible like emotional insight that you have to know what you're good at and also know what you aren't, and be quite honest with yourself. And Robin and I both kind of run startups. I mean, Robin's organization is much more mature than mine, but I started a year ago, so I'm currently running a startup. And I found that it's incredibly hard to find, amazing people who you can invite into your team. And not only that, just keep that fire burning, Could you share maybe some words of advice to myself and some of our listeners on how you've been able to find the right people to join your team and then also keep that fire burning?
Well, the first question I really don't know the answer to. It just happened for me. I believe it's maybe the law of attraction or pure coincidence. I don't know how you want to interpret it, but yeah, I just had, I think, the luck to like having amazing people come on my path that were like, oh my God, cool, I want to join. And sometimes it happened that people came on my path that became part of the team, that after a while we realized that it's not working. And in the beginning I was like very afraid to let go of those people. One time I really had to like one day say, okay, now this relationship ends today. And that was very hard for me to do, because I'm like not how would you say, like a severe I don't know how to say it, like super I'm not an angry person, like say, oh, you have to do this, you have to do this, but that day was like, okay, now you just like crossed too many lines, now it's done. Or other times it's like the person itself says, okay, but I don't feel like I fit in this culture anymore, and it's a very good thing actually to like, as soon as possible, as you know that a relationship is not going to work, to then just say it, and like try to end it in as friends, because it is possible. I've had this with several people, that we're still super good friends, but we know that we're not built to work together. So I think if you adopt that mentality and know that, okay, so I'm just talking personally, I do not know the answer, but what I always try to do is to get a person before we start and think, okay, can I imagine working for 20 years with that person? Because if somebody commits in a relationship with me, I like commit myself on 150%. I want to give everything to that relationship. But when I feel that's the case, but then, like I said, if you feel that it's not working anymore, or you don't feel that energy anymore, then it's maybe okay to go apart. And I try to see it as an ecosystem, like a forest. You have these pioneer trees who start to grow, like birches or willows, but after a while they just move away, and then you have the climax trees. In a startup, it's the same. In the beginning, it's like, rush, and oh my God, I have to do this and that, and I work long hours. But after a couple of years, you have a structure, you have like more regularity, and that's another type of people that you have to have. So how do you find those people? I'm also still looking for the answer. But I was taking an Uber ride like at 1 a.m. in the morning, like last week, and the guy, I talked to the guy and said, oh yeah, I just graduated from a school and I'm an AI developer. I'm like, wow, that's a cool experience. And he was looking for a cool coincidence, I mean. He's looking for a job. I'm like, okay, let's meet. Maybe, what happens. I still don't know. I still have to meet him. But, sometimes these cool things just happen. And voila.
You see, I'm nodding furiously because I resonate with a lot of things that you just said about, for example, starting the fires and then finding other people who maintain the fires, and also juggling many different things, right? I know you have many different responsibilities and so on. I know I'm going to wrap up soon, but I'd love to just ask you quickly, how do you juggle so many different things? How does it work in your brain? What are the systems to help you make that happen?
Yeah, that's a very interesting one. And I think it's also something that I cannot really teach, or maybe I can, I don't know. But I have an artistic mind, which means that If you ask me to recall like exactly a meeting I just had, I cannot really, I can't answer that if I didn't take notes. It's somewhere in my subconscious, but if I really need it, I can, suddenly it will come. So there is so many things in my mind that's like seemingly chaotic or organic, let's say. And if I need something, it will come. So that's like, and then juggling, I'm still struggling with that one, like my email inbox is like 651 emails that I still have to answer. That then I sometimes like, it's just too much. And then I don't answer emails. I don't have a personal assistant yet. So it's like, okay, if it's really urgent, people will like email for a second time. I know it's sometimes not nice for other people, probably not nice for me, but it's just like I'm trying to follow my flow, and try to live as intuitively as possible, and like constantly repeat to myself, I'm doing the right thing at the right time, and most of the time, I'm really knocking on wood right now, but most of the time that works. Sometimes it's like, oh my God, I really have to do it now or till tomorrow. And then you have to like find 4 extra hours out of nothing. So that happens as well. So yeah, it's like a super organic process. And yeah, I don't think it's possible to write down what that process is, but it kind of works.
Well, Louis, as we wrap up the conversation, I'd love to look ahead to the future. What's next on the horizon for you? Are there any upcoming projects or new challenges that you're excited about at the moment?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I truly believe in collaboration. So I'm planning to do a book tour with SOS Save Our Soils, and to really go into places that I would have otherwise never go to, and talk to people that I would never talk to, and out of these I just know out of these conversations, crazy new ideas come. I really love to connect things. So for example, we have a Eat More Trees documentary that will come out very soon. It's also connecting, for example, there we're connecting the Amazon rainforest with USA, with Spain, with UK. I really believe that by connecting people and stuff, that's the way forward. And a very cool project that I'm starting, it's super local. It's called Bio Baby, and Bio in French and in Dutch means organic, or in other countries it means organic. And we are starting a very targeted campaign for pregnant women, because there are so many studies that show that if you're pregnant and you eat or you have pesticides in you, that you have more chance to have a baby with hypospadias or cryptorchidity, which is like a deformation of the penis, or child that can have mental degeneration or neurological problems or autism or all kind of problems, and also for the woman itself. That we're like, okay, what's like the smallest group we can target to really switch to organic food. And so yeah, I'm super excited to work on that, because that's literally our future. If right now kids, if they drink breast milk, it's already full of pesticides. It's the first thing they drink. It's full of poison. How can we let that happen? So for me, I'm like super excited to do this, and only in like half of Belgium we're gonna probably start. But it is something we want to make internationally. I know chain smokers, but the second they know they are pregnant, they like immediately stop. They can't do it, or if they like to drink a couple of glasses of wine every day, they stop to drink when they are pregnant. That's already like common knowledge. Almost everybody already knows that. The next thing on the list is, okay, you don't smoke, you don't drink, you only eat organic. And if we would be there in 5 years, then that would be fantastic. Like I don't consider myself to be an entrepreneur. I consider myself to be an activist who just uses entrepreneurship to change the world. And for me, my dream future is that the entire world becomes poison free. Because right now we're poisoned from everywhere. our food. We know the story of Snow White, how like the evil witch puts poison on the apple and gives it to Snow White. Child of 5 years knows, yeah, you want an apple, little kid? Oh, yeah. Okay, no, wait, the first gonna spray poison on it. Now eat it. The child is gonna be like, what the heck are you doing? We know that, but we're doing it every day. Apples have like up to 25 different pesticide residues on them. It's not okay to put poison on our food, and that's like my ideal world in 10, 20 or 30 years, that the entire planet becomes pesticide free, and everybody can have food that's actually their medicine. Because if food is not your medicine, medicine will become your food.
That's an incredibly powerful message, especially I have an 8-month-old baby, and during pregnancy, for the first time in my life, I was researching all the things that go into the breast milk and even microplastics inside the placenta. There's so many things from our current so-called economic growth model that has such a big impact on babies that aren't even born. So this BioBebe campaign sounds amazing, and I'm looking forward to seeing it come to life as well. I want to just say thank you, Louis. I know you're probably jetting off somewhere or got some important things to do. Is there anything you'd like to share as a final comment or anything to our audience?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. It's a very nice conversation. I think the most important thing is that we need to empower people and know that we can do anything. There is this famous quote by Margaret Mead that says, never doubt that a small group of people can change the course of history, because it's the only thing that ever has. And that is true with everything. For example, in the United States, you have the Clean Air Act, where factories are like now forbidden to have dangerous and chemical poison through their exhaust pipes. It's because of a small group of people who said, okay, we don't want to be poisoned. Or like a small group of people, like in a little village in Italy, that made their entire valley pesticide free, because they were like, okay, let's have a town meeting. Like Simpsons wise, town meeting. Who of you wants to be poisoned? Put your hands in the air. Okay, nobody wants to be poisoned, and so they make it possible. And everybody who's listening to this podcast right now, they can be that change. There's literally no excuse that you can't do something small or something big. It doesn't even matter if it's like even start to buy your peanut butter organic instead of non-organic. You can start with a very small product, or you can write a letter to Leonardo DiCaprio, or to your minister, or to your king, or to whoever.
Yeah. I think one thing that stuck with me with what you said about your many different adventures was the quote, "What would you do if you knew you wouldn't fail?" The fear of failure is often what holds us back from taking that kind of action that you were just talking about. So I love that quote, and so many insights and points of learning. So thanks so much for sharing, Louis. And what about you, Yoshi? How was the conversation for you?
Yeah, thank you so much, Louis. I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I didn't know the origin of soil until we had this conversation today. And I didn't know it came from dead, animals or dead organic matter. So just that fact was really, it's really mind-boggling. How some of these super basic facts we just never really learn in our current educational system. I also, this conversation really reconfirmed why you're one of the more sought out young speakers in the world. It's truly been inspirational to me. I think you've really shifted my sort of worldview on a lot of the topics that we covered today. And I'm definitely going to be your fan in trying to create this poison-free world for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, thank you so much, Louis. Yes, really, really appreciate it.
I hope your messaging spreads like the invasive weed that you continue to spread like an invasive.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the kind words.
Share all at your website, your socials on our feed as well. Thank you so much, Louis, for joining.
Arigato. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis. Bye.